Be out there. We'll get the meeting going today of the Laconia Planning Board on February 4th at 6:30. I'll look to roll call.
In attendance tonight, we have Brian Wolf, Gail Ober, Dave Ouellette, Birch McNeil, Councilor Bob Susi, Mike Delavecchia, Charlie St. Clair, Kristen Bastille, Amy Levisic, Planning Director Rob Mora, and Assistant Planner Tyler Carmichael, and I'm Savannah Brunel, the Recording Secretary.
Thank you for that. I'll look for a motion to accept the minutes from the previous meeting.
Motion made.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor signify by raising your hands, please. Okay, Gail, you're going to
I wasn't
abstain?
here.
You're going to abstain then?
Agreed.
Okay, so did you get that count? Thank you. Okay, now we'll go to continued public hearings. 6.1 is PB 2025-014 White Oaks Road. The applicant is proposing to construct a 5
Megawatt.
Thank you, I wondered about that. Megawatts photo, God only knows. Help me with that one, somebody.
Photovoltaic community solar energy system.
Okay, a power station on 21 acres. I'll look for, that was a tough one for me. We'll look for a motion to accept this application. Anybody?
Make the motion to accept the application.
Thank you,
Second.
Amy. Seconded by Rich. All in favor, please raise your hands. Okay, it was unanimous, thank you. Is there anybody here to represent? Come on up, thank you. You just state your name and address.
Yep, Kevin Corbett with representing the applicant. Address is 47 Bow Street, Portsmouth, New Hampshire.
Welcome.
Thank you. I can't remember if we presented to all of you before, but did you want us to go over
We
sort of
should-
the
we
overall?
should
Okay, yeah, we'll
refresh
get an
everybody.
easel
Yeah,
here in
please.
the plan, we could do that first.
Is that gonna work for the camera there, or do you, what do you, okay. Beautiful. Thank you.
Okay, so this is, as you mentioned, 5 megawatt AC photovoltaic system. This parcel, this is White Oaks Road right here. So this is, I think it's a 106 acre parcel. Oh no, 111 acre parcel. We're developing roughly 21 acres of it. There's vast amounts of wetlands on the property. There's a transmission right away that runs through the middle of it. So essentially we have 2 separate arrays occupying the 2 upland areas of the project. So what you see here, these lines going across, those are the solar panels. It's a fixed tilt system, so it just stays in one place. There's an access road that comes off White Oaks Road that travels through this array, through over down here to the back array that's proposed right now. There's an existing gravel drive for most of the way, but it hasn't been used in quite some time. The project is enclosed with a 7-foot high fence for security reasons. Yeah, we've met with TRC as well as the Conservation Commission to talk about the project, and I believe we have support from both them. Yeah, that's a quick overview. I don't know if there's any questions.
How, if I know I've been up there, but just for the public, the distance from White Oaks Road to the project, just a rough guess, is it like,
Just over 300 feet. From here to there? Up from the edge of the road to the panels is 300, just over 300 feet.
so just over a football field?
Yes, yep, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, and this is all gonna remain wooded here, along White Oaks Road. There is some tree clearing, you can see in some of the plans down in the southern sections of most of the array. And obviously we have, a stormwater design was submitted, so we have detention basins in various areas based on the civil design and calculations. And we've had preliminary meetings with DES, Wetlands, and AOT to talk about the project, so far today. So they like the design, they haven't had any comments, but we haven't submitted the application as of yet.
And again, for the public in large, will there be lighting there at night security lights or anything like that?
No, I mean, sometimes we put motion sensor lights at the equipment areas, but we don't have to do that if it's a concern. So I can't remember if I think we actually put that we weren't putting them in the application,
Correct.
is that right? So,
No
yeah,
light.
You won't need them?
no. 'Cause generally, people aren't working on it at night, so.
The motion lights are more for security, aren't they?
No, we put them near the equipment area in case there's a worker there and it's getting late and he's trying to wrap up basically, but they have other means of lighting if need be.
So no lighting at all, anywhere at night?
Nope.
Okay. Any questions from anybody?
I
Go
do.
ahead.
You mentioned the 7-foot-high fence. Is that just around the panels, or is that the entire property, or how does?
Yeah, so there's a fence around this array, which encompasses all the arrays in the equipment, like the inverters and the electrical components, and then there's a fence around this one as well.
And you also mentioned clearing. Do you have a percentage of what would be cleared?
I don't have that. I think it's on one of the plans, isn't it?
What's that? Yeah, it's there. Woods, woods, grass, it's a field. Yeah, it's just fields and trees, yeah.
Charlie? If there's other questions, maybe we can go to the other questions, and then when they find the answer to the clearing, maybe.
I've got another question too.
Okay, hold on, Bob. First, go ahead.
Where's your utility interconnection point gonna be? On the distribution line that runs through there or on the street?
So we submit our application to interconnect the line right here. I will say we got a message from Eversource on Friday. I had a call with them yesterday, and they're trying to change that. But we talked about the project of where we're at and the location of that's important, so they're supposed to get back to us there. I guess there's a tap that comes off onto Fillmore Ave here that they were trying to get us to connect to, but with the amount of wetlands in this area, I just told them it's not feasible to do that. So they're getting back to us on that. So yeah, currently we're connecting right here, or right here.
I may have missed it, but on that fence, did you say what kind of a fence it was? I know it's 7 feet high, but what kind of a fence will that be? Will it be like a chain link fence? Will it be
Yeah,
a solid-
chain link, or we do a lot of times like a agricultural fence with steel posts, and it's essentially the same thing. It's like a wire mesh that's got different size. You see them on like farms and stuff like that.
Well, I'm not a neighbor up there, but I would hope that you'd have something a little more attractive than a chain link fence. Maybe, I know if you go down into Boston, going into the MBTA there by Fenway Park, the backside of it there, they have a fence there, but it looks like grass over the whole thing. It looks like real grass. It's not. But something to,
Yeah, I mean, based on the amount of trees surrounding the property, you're not gonna be able to see it unless you pull into the access road.
You won't see the fence from the road?
No, I mean,
Okay, if you're not gonna see the fence from the road, if you're sure about that. Again, I could just hear people saying, geez, couldn't they do something better than that? It's just a thought. I can see these guys, oh, yeah. I should know better. I can hear people saying, geez, couldn't they do something better than that? But I digress. Go ahead, Bob. You got a question?
You got a road going in there. Is that road gonna be a secure gate?
yeah, so we would put like a bar gate at the entrance here. So when you pull in, is enough for one vehicle to pull into the entrance, open up the gate, and
Will
drive
the
in?
gate be a secure gate?
Yeah, with a lock, yes.
It's a locked gate, and you'll make sure the police department has a key?
Yeah, I know we have, I mean, we haven't talked to the police department, but the fire department, we have to put Knox boxes on all, I don't know if they share those, with the fire department, but that's the intent, any
You just wanna
lock.
make sure that's there.
Yeah, any lock that we have on any of the gates, cause there's also, you know, there's also gates on the fences that will have locks on them, that we're gonna put Knox boxes on those
Okay,
locations.
is that road just in and out? There's no exit at the other end?
There's no exit on the other end, no.
Okay, is it a dirt road?
Just a gravel road, yep.
Okay, so, question for you, in the wintertime, we have our snows, will that be plowed?
Generally not, no.
Okay, so there's no regular routine maintenance that has to be done?
There's maintenance on the array itself for mowing, mowing the grass and things like that, maintaining that. But plowing it generally we don't generally plow.
Okay, thank you.
And I don't know if you got it, Eric, I have in my notes 36 acres of clearing, is that right?
Yeah, so it's actually 24.71 clearing and then 10.88 of just the trimming.
Okay,
So if you add them together, then it's, the 30, 35.
yeah, so including the 21 acres of the solar array, it's 36 acres. A portion of that is just clearing for shade purposes. Since it's outside the array, it's not needed we don't have to grub the area, basically.
So not in addition to where the solar panels?
Correct,
are?
including,
Total.
yeah.
Okay, great, thank you.
Go ahead.
Does it emit any sound other than the initial construction noise to just set up the array? When it's in
Yeah.
operation, does it emit any noise?
Yeah, so the inverters generate a low hum only during the day when the sun's out, when they're operating. That's why we have the equipment pads in locations that are furthest away from the street and any neighbors, but it's very low, like a low hum.
And will
But
that
not
be
at night.
something that the neighboring properties would be able to detect with
No,
just a
no.
human ear?
No, based on the distance and the trees, no. That's why we put them, put the equipment back here.
How much sound did you say it emits?
Yeah, it's at 200 feet away, it's 38 decibels, which is similar to a library, is what they compare it to. So yeah, at 33 feet away, it's 68 decibels, which is like a conversation. At 200 feet, it's 37 decibels, and we're further than 200 feet away from the closest residence there.
Okay, so it's your contention this isn't going to create
Correct.
a noise disturbance to
Yes.
adjoining property owners?
Yep.
Go ahead, Gail.
That's kind of a two-part question, follow up on what Rich McNeil said. If Eversource requires you to connect at Philbrook Road, first question, is Philbrook Road even a city road, or is that a private road?
Which road?
Philbrook.
Fillmore.
Fillmore, I'm
Yeah,
sorry,
that's,
yes.
I had the
Fillmore.
same question for Eversource.
It's okay, so that's a private road.
So I don't even think they could connect to it technically.
That was probably part of my question. And then the other one is if it was a city road, I was wondering if they had to be buried, but saying that, I know there's some problems with, we had another one that we had to change the underground connections to because they couldn't get there's like a 5-year wait on
Yeah, most
the
of,
actual equipment needed to connect it. So, but if it's
Yeah, it's
a
on
private road,
poles
then
usually,
if that's what
yeah.
Eversource wants, and that's a whole new. So would we need to reapprove it if Eversource says they have to connect on Fillmore?
I think that, so,
An amendment, or would it come in, not reapprove, but come in and amend it?
so the option, just to clarify, the option that they were talking about as a potential is to come off Fillmore Road onto White Oaks Road and then come into the entrance, where our gravel road is, not connect directly, cause
Oh, okay.
there's no route to connect there, basically.
Okay, any other questions?
So would these be, I noticed nothing in the conditions, so we're not asking them to bury any connecting lines?
Well, we
There's no proposed overhead utilities that they're putting in, they're just gonna connect to the utility that's already present there.
Okay, all right.
Well, the infrastructure, when they connect to it, there'll be there's gonna be
Yeah, there has to be
probably
over,
eight poles, set of disconnects, a metering set,
there'll be three poles.
yeah.
Okay, so
Much
that's
like
kind of where I was going.
The connection that was just made for the solar on the landfill.
Yeah, there's a disconnect, a recloser, which is a protective device, and then a riser pole. And those are currently proposed over here. Obviously, they're in the middle of the woods, so you can't see them, but in the event that Eversource came back and said that they cannot accept this and this is the route they want to go, then that's what they would be proposing. Essentially, there'd be overhead lines, there'll be a line coming across the street, and then we would have 3 poles at the entrance, spaced about 50 feet apart.
You said earlier that Eversource, and you already worked it out, you can go back to the original, correct?
I hope so. They approved us before, and apparently they just, they said that they just revised their regulations, and they're trying to limit the amount of taps coming off of a transmission feeder like this, and that's why they were proposing this. So we literally, I had a call with them yesterday afternoon and told them that we can't do this. We need to stick to the original plan. So he's supposed to go back to his boss, talk to him about it, and get back to us. So
Thank you.
timing's not great, obviously, but.
Any other questions?
Just
Go ahead.
2 more. Back to the noise that's created by, your proposal. Would you be willing to put a condition on there that, on your application, that, that's not going to interrupt the neighboring properties?
Yeah, we could put something, if there's noise, we could put a noise barrier in front of the equipment, which I've done on projects
Aside from
where
the
it's.
concern, the operation, I'm sorry, I should have clarified, for the actual operation of the array.
Yes, sorry, can you repeat the question?
Once your operation is taking place, would you be willing to accept a condition that the noise that's emitted when it's in operation doesn't impact adjoining properties?
Yes.
Okay. And is there any impact to the environment from operation of a facility like this? Any impact to, if you have fence around it, probably not walking animals, birds, anything else?
No, I mean, we had these conversations with the Conservation Commission. The birds and smaller animals actually thrive in the arrays. The fence is lifted 6 inches off the ground to let smaller animals pass through. And behind the panels, the birds actually build nests frequently.
Thank you, sir.
Yep.
Any other questions? Oh, go ahead,
You
Amy.
did mention, though, that the noise is just during the daylight hours, right? When the
Correct.
sun is coming in?
Correct. Yeah, I didn't look. I don't know if you guys have a noise ordinance, do you?
Oh, of course we do, but I wouldn't worry about that.
We do,
obviously.
it's very vague, and it's on, the police officer that goes out there, what his thoughts are,
Okay.
his discretion, or their discretion.
Not sure how vague it is, but it's a matter of opinion, of
It's
course.
just a humming, right?
Yeah,
Sounds like
Yes.
nothing.
Yeah, no, it's,
low humming. you
Yeah.
said. Okay, any other questions? Okay, we'll open this, thank you.
I just,
Oh, go
I don't
ahead.
know if it's the proper time. We did get the staff recommendations today.
We're
and-
gonna go over that.
Okay, I just have a couple questions on that. I can wait to do that, or?
You wanna do that now, or do you wanna wait, Rob? He's got some questions on staff.
Yeah, you can do those now if you want.
Okay. Okay, so the first one is 1.4, the pavement escrow. I understand, we talked with DVW, I think that road's getting paved at maybe this year, I can't remember what he said, but, we've dealt with this in a couple of towns already, and I'm hoping you'll consider, obviously, we'll do the escrow if that's a requirement. My fear is that there's no dollar amount here, and we don't understand what that could be, and the cost could be really significant. So in other towns, we've come to an agreement on a road agreement, basically saying that if we damage the road, we'll repair it on our own costs. So my ask is that we could modify the language that says what it says, but also includes or a road agreement acceptable to DPW or something along those lines.
I would be amenable to that.
Okay. Thanks. And then the other ones are 1.5 and 1.6, which we didn't actually, nobody's brought this up. But it wasn't brought up in the TRC meeting, so I'm just trying to get an understanding. If you could just clarify what the purpose of each is. And again, obviously it says bonds are not acceptable. So I'm wondering, is that like a typical thing for any commercial construction in the city that is a requirement?
Every
or-
site plan that comes in has that same requirement on there for
Okay.
site security and landscaping security.
Okay,
It's a standard condition that we put on every single application
gotcha.
for the exact same amounts. And it'll be based off your construction estimate. I would be willing to amend to remove that we will allow bonds.
Yeah, that'd be,
State law just changed and I have to accept bonds from now on. So,
okay.
Yep.
Yeah, if we could do that for the pavement too would be great, just because, especially in the state of New Hampshire, these projects are, they're
So-
not really.
So that agreement is really, I think, as you kind of just alluded to when we amended that, there's gonna be an agreement between you and Public Works. So the bond and the payment for that will be in agreement with you and Public Works.
Okay, that works. All right, and then I just wanted to clarify too, where it says, it'll be returned once the project is complete. Is that, once site work is complete, once we get the certificate of completion or whatever from the city?
Right.
Okay. Yeah, if we could clarify that too, that'd be great. I just don't want any confusion around what
We can
complete
amend that
means.
to add that.
Okay, great. And that was it.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
We'll open this up to public comment if there are any butters here that would like to comment on it, and we'll do that at 6:51. Is there anybody in the public that would like to comment on this project? Seeing if I had my music, I could be playing. Okay, seeing none, we'll close this at public commentary at 6:52. Thank you. Staff.
All right. So, for findings of fact here, the application is complete and consistent with state and city land use regulations. The Zoning Board of Adjustment approved a special exception for the use of the parcel as a power generation facility at its September 16th, 2024 meeting. The application and site plan were reviewed by the Technical Review Committee at its September 17th, 2024 meeting. Their comments have been incorporated in the recommended conditions of approval. The application and site plan were reviewed by the Conservation Commission at their September 18th, 2019 meeting. It should be September 18th, 2024 meeting. The commission has no concerns and supports the project. For staff recommended conditions of approval, for pre-construction requirements, all conditions in this section must be completed at least 2 weeks prior to commencing any work on site. Plans must be revised and submitted to the planning department in accordance with the following. On page 3, remove the notation on the right for LHA Realty. And on page 3, also correct LHA Realty notation from 206 to 203. 1.2 is erosion controls. They must be in place and inspected and approved by the planning department. In all areas with a single line of erosion controls, silt socks must be used instead of silt fence. In all areas with a double line of erosion controls, a combination of silt sock and silt fence must be used. The planning department will perform regular inspections to ensure erosion controls are installed and maintained correctly. The applicant must provide the Department of Public Works with a plan of how much cut and fill will be conducted on site. The applicant must place into escrow an amount to be approved by the Department of Public Works for potential repairs to White Oaks Road, which we'd also stated that we're gonna have a road agreement in place with DPW and to be approved by DPW for that condition. And we will allow DPW to approve any bond required for that. For site security, the applicant must submit a performance guarantee for site improvement and restoration security in an amount equal to 11% of the total estimated cost for all site work. This guarantee must be submitted to and approved by the planning department. This performance guarantee will be returned to the applicant once the project is complete. We've established that's gonna be at the time of certificate of occupancy is issued. And then we've also gonna remove the requirement that they can't use bonds. They will be allowed to use a performance bond in accordance with state law. For the landscape security, the applicant must submit a performance guarantee for site landscaping and restoration security in an amount equal to 11% of the total estimated cost for all landscaping, or a minimum of $500, whichever is greater. The guarantee must be submitted to and approved by the planning department. This performance guarantee will be returned to the applicant after the 2 growing seasons following the completion of the project. And we're gonna amend that to also remove the bond requirement. They can use a performance bond in accordance with state law. The applicant must possess all required permits and approvals granted by other municipal, state, and federal boards or agencies. All permits and approvals must be in place prior to the signing and recording of the final plans in Mylar. Should any permit or approval be revoked at any time during the project, all work must cease until a new permit or approval is obtained. Copies of all permits and approvals must be provided by the applicant to the planning department upon request. 4 final plans must be submitted to, reviewed, and approved by the planning department. For construction requirements, all conditions in this section must be met during the construction of the project. Knox boxes will be required for all gates. All fire access roads must meet all specifications required by the Laconia Fire Department. And stormwater pollution prevention plan inspections and reports must be conducted by a third-party engineer to be approved by the Department of Public Works. The project and all associated conditions must be completed by no later than February 4th, 2030. If all conditions are not met, nor any extension application filed with Laconia Planning Department by the completion date, this approval is null and void.
Thank you. Any questions? Go ahead, Gail.
Yeah, I'm gonna go back to what I originally asked. Are we approving this for where he wants to connect in the center? And would he have to come back to us, or is that something that if Eversource says you
Yes.
have to go here, would they have to come back, or could you do that administratively? Or what would we do here to make
No,
that work?
You would have to come back to planning board. I don't have the power to
You don't have that
administratively,
power, okay.
approve
So
it.
we're amending it only for that particular
So if they
connection
were to
point.
have to change their plans of where they're going to connect to the utilities, they'd have to come back and amend
Okay.
it.
All right, thanks.
Yep.
I just wanted to make that clear and for the record, so we don't have any confusion down the road if Eversource doesn't want to
No,
cooperate.
even the last solar array that, project that came in, they had to change where their connection was, and they came in for an amendment as well.
Okay, thanks.
Well, if that's the case, make sure you get it to us as quick as you can, so you don't get tied up by having to wait for a monthly meeting. Okay, any other comments or questions, everybody? I'll look for a motion from somebody. Mike, you've been so busy, you wanna make a motion on this? Thank you.
Move to approve application PB 2025-14 for White Oaks Road with the conditions approved as presented in the staff report.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been seconded. Any more discussion?
Do we want to put that condition in for the sound? If down the road there's an issue with sound, that they will do something to mitigate it?
Yep, do you wanna make that, proposed amendment, and then,
That's fine.
second, and the Baker and Bush is good with that? All
Yeah,
right.
do we need to vote on that amendment?
It's part of the motion now, so.
It's on the motion now,
Yep.
okay. So
How do we
don't-
want to amend that, though? Do we want to, is it, if this, I'm assuming if it's running properly, this isn't an issue, but if it's malfunctioning and it's making a noise nuisance, what's the conditions we want to place around mitigation?
Well, at that point, they're gonna have to put some sound barrier walls around the inverter and stuff.
We will hear
also-
from the neighbors so fast about a
Oh, I would
noise
assume
problem
so.
that they will hear about it equally as fast if they don't already know it. So I'm sure that they will get right on that to mitigate it, because if there's loud noise, and correct me if I'm wrong, but if there's loud noise coming from there, something's not right. So I'm sure that they will get right on that. Go ahead.
One other thing to add to that, Brian, and it made me think of it, was that if there is a lot of noise and there's complaints from neighbors, then we're gonna make the owner or whoever runs that project pay for any testing, decibel testing that has to be taken care of, okay?
You're going where I was going to go.
Okay, so if
In other
that
words,
comes up.
what's acceptable and then what's the mitigation if it's a
Exactly.
problem?
So we have to be able to get a third party to measure that situation, okay, to be able to present that back to the ownership.
Well,
So, and we shouldn't have to pay for that, that's where I'm going.
Well, I don't wanna speak for the police, but in older days, they used to, somebody had a decimal reader.
Exactly.
And
I don't understand.
I think the town ordinance, or the city ordinance is,
I
100,
think there was a subcommittee meeting
Last Thursday?
last Thursday where they discussed amending the noise ordinance, so I think that they're.
do you know what we're gonna amend it to?
Yeah.
Were they gonna lower the decimals, or?
No.
Okay, so that's fine, so there's something on the
The
books
point is to
now.
be punitive to the applicant. It's if the thing's malfunctioning.
Yeah.
They've stated for the record how much noise the thing should emit. If it's higher than that and we get complaints,
That's the
Then-
key, is if we get complaints, not if it's high, but if we get complaints.
Right, if we get complaints, then we might have to go out and take a test, that's where I'm going.
We will, but correct me if I'm wrong, if it's making loud noises, it's probably something not functioning right.
Yes, yeah.
And that's the last thing they're gonna wanna have up there is a problem with,
Right, 'cause they're
Something
not gonna get the
eating up.
revenue they're looking for.
and it's gonna cost them more in the end, I would think, if it doesn't get fixed, so. Okay, so we've got that amendment on there. Last chance. Okay, all in favor, raise your hand, please. Okay, that was unanimous. Thank you all very much, and thank you.
Thank you.
Look forward to seeing that power flowing somewhere. Okay, next up we have, excuse me, 7.1, road acceptance, is a review of the petition to accept James Avenue as a city street. Is there anybody here that's gonna speak to that? I see Wes Anderson out there. Wes, would you like to speak to this?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Very briefly, this is one of the 40-plus streets that we've been plowing, even though they're private, and we're trying to solve that problem. This is the first one. We have two that are coming up. This one, because it dates back into the late 1800s, never went before a planning board. It is required to go before a planning board before the city council takes action.
Okay. For anybody who doesn't know, this is Wes Anderson. He's our famous Director of Public
Yes.
Works. Thank you, Wes. Does anybody have any questions for Wes?
Just, do you recommend this?
It's, if you look
It
down.
is.
Okay, all right.
Basically, it meets the city council's intent, and the city council knows what our estimated price to bring it up at some point in the future to a paved standard.
Yeah, I read, if you read down here, Public Works recommends the planning board recommend that the city council approve the petition. So, it's the first thing I saw. I
Yeah,
said,
and you're
okay.
gonna see someplace between 95 and 99% of these, because all these roads, for the most part, date back before the planning board was created. Hillcrest is the only one, I think, right now that you don't have to see, because that went before the planning board in the 80s and the 90s.
Okay. Any other questions for Wes?
What's the incremental cost to the city of maintaining just this, not the
Well,
40
we've
other
already been
ones?
plowing it and doing that piece, so basically, we're adding up, I think I was, don't quote me exactly, it was around $2,000 additional a year for potholes, and it was around 24,000 in current dollars, you know, when we went to go rip the pavement off and put new pavement down. But it depends upon when it fits in the cycle, when it's actually gonna cost. If it's 5 years down the road, of course, inflation will drive it up.
The taxpayers' money at work that actually live on the street amongst everybody else, so it's a good thing.
And if we were to have 40 more of these, we're gonna increase our public works budget to, accommodate that?
I think it also, if I may,
Go ahead.
I think it also increases the value of the property to the homeowners if there's a resale situation as a public street or city-accepted street, so I think it's well worth it, okay?
Another question, go ahead.
Is the road currently gravel or paved now?
They put pavement on top of what was already existing gravel, so depending upon which of the roads in that campground area, some of them look like you could surf on the waves that are in the road. They're so exaggerated. So yes, they may be paved, but I wouldn't call it a paved road for the most part. It was just a sealant to keep it from being muddy all the time, is the simplest way of thinking about it.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Wes. Stand by if we have any more questions, please. We'll open, do we have to accept that? Was I supposed to, thank you. Public comment?
Yes.
Okay, so we'll open this up to, public commentary at 7:03. If there are any abutters or any other citizens that would like to speak to this matter, please do so now. Okay, seeing none, we'll close the public commentary at 7:04. Go ahead, staff, if you have anything to say.
Wes kind of handled it. Everything, all we have is a proposed motion on this, as the board can make whatever recommendation they'd like to recommend. The only thing that changes is if the board decided not to recommend against it, it would still go to the city council for the same process. You would just need a 2/3 vote at city council for them to finish the process.
Okay. That's an education, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? I'll look for a motion. Gail, go ahead.
I move to recommend the city council accept James Ave as a city street in accordance with the street plat presented by the Department of Public Works.
Is there a second? Okay, it's been seconded right here. And, any more commentary? Okay, all in favor, raise your hands. It's unanimous, thank you very much. And thank you, Wes.
Mr. Chair, if I could, the next application, PB 2025-032 for 3048 Parade Road. We'd like to request for a continuance on that one until next month. We discussed it with the applicant. They need to go to Conservation Commission, and their Conservation Commission meeting is scheduled for tomorrow. So they'll be ready next month when they, for planning board.
I'm shocked. We need a motion on that?
Yes, please.
That's what I thought, okay. Look for a motion to continue this applicant, PB 2025-032, 3048 Parade Road.
Can't you just table it? Is that?
We're just gonna continue it.
Well, we just have to continue it only because we've publicly noticed it, so we continue it just, so we don't have to renotice.
All right, I'd make a motion to continue application PB 2025-32 for 3048 Parade Road until next meeting. Does that give them enough time?
Yep.
Until the March meeting.
I'll look for a second on that. Okay, thank you, Rich. Any more discussion? Go ahead.
Is somebody in the audience? that-
Will you re-notify me on that?
Come on up so we can, I appreciate that.
I'm sorry, Jill Miller, I live right next door to the property at 3160 Parade Road. Will you re-notify me if it's being continued, or?
I think so, no.
No, so since we've continued it at a public hearing,
Yeah,
we don't have to renotice for it.
so I just need to come
So
to
you-
every meeting.
Well,
No,
no,
no.
so we're scheduling it for next,
You are gonna
yeah, so
definitely
that's what
schedule it.
we've just done is scheduled it for the next meeting.
Okay, great. All right, that's
Not
it.
that I don't
Always
mind,
the first Tuesday of the month, so I think it's
Okay.
March.
It'll be
4th.
March
Yep.
4th
Yep.
at
but
6:30.
you can come to more meetings if you want.
No, I'm good. I've heard it from you guys already before. Thank you, though. Have a great day.
Thank you. Okay, we didn't vote on that. Did we just vote on
No.
that? No, we haven't voted.
No,
on
not
that.
yet.
So, all in favor, raise your hands for continuation. Okay, it's unanimous. Thank you very much. Okay, next we have 7.3, PB 2025-036 Mile Hill Road. Applicant is proposing to extend their completion date from February 6, 2025 to February 9th, 2026.
Hello, here for an extension.
Wait,
from
Can you just give your name and?
Yes, Philip
address?
Brouillard for Mountain Lake Village. We've been working diligently on getting all our approvals. We have to request an extension due to delays in completing the revisions to the Belmont subdivision plan to provide for on-site septic systems, and PUC approval for Laconia to sell water into the 18 lots in Belmont.
Okay.
We did have prior extensions of this, and we did get some good news today from the PUC that they have a scheduled hearing for February 20th, but because it's rather straightforward, they're gonna decide it with the city's consent and my consent without a hearing, so they're gonna recommend that it be approved, so that seems to be behind us, so.
Phil, if you hold on, should we have accepted this, or are we okay without that?
We do have to accept it.
Don't move.
I'll make a motion to
gonna-
accept application PB 2025-36 for Mile Hill Road is complete with the findings of fact as presented in the staff report. No?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, a second to accept, a motion to accept, is there a second to that? Somebody? Thank you, Rich. All in favor, please signify by raising your hands. It's unanimous, thank you. Okay, now we'll get moving. Sorry about that, Phil.
That's okay.
Okay, so that's, any questions? Bob, you had a question?
Yeah, I have a question. So you're saying part of the situation is this Laconia to sell water to your development. So in other words, have you approached the water department about taking care of this, and we're gonna set up meters and stuff like that?
Oh, yes, there's an intermunicipal agreement between Belmont and Laconia that's already been signed and approved. And that's all set in terms of,
I have a lot of heartache over that agreement, I'll
Oh.
be honest with you.
oh, okay, all right. All right, well, we do have that, and that provides for the meters and all the stuff you're talking
Okay,
about.
thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Any other questions? Okay, thank you. I'll open this up for public comment on the application at 7:10. Is there anybody in public that'd like to comment on this request for extension? All right, we'll close the public comment at 7:10:30. Thank you. Okay, staff?
So, to reiterate the findings of fact, the application is complete and consistent with state and city land use regulations. The application and subdivision plans were previously approved by the planning board at its February 4th, 2021 meeting. And the planning board approved the extension of the project completion date to February 6th, 2025 at its January 24th, 2024 meeting. For recommended conditions of approval, basically we want to amend the prior completion date to reflect February 9th, 2026, and all of the conditions from the February 4th, 2021 approval apply.
Thank you. That's gonna be enough time for you, Phil?
Yes.
Okay. Any questions of the staff? I look for a motion. Somebody?
Yeah, I'll make the motion.
Counselor Susie, please do.
Okay. Motion one, move to accept the application.
We're on motion 2, sorry.
We're on motion two. I move to approve the application PB 2025-036, Mile Hill Road with the conditions of approval presented in the staff report.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second it.
Amy seconded, okay. And that's it, no more discussion? All in favor, please signify by raising your hands. It's unanimous. Thank you very much. Thank you, Phil.
Thank you.
Good luck with that. I hope, I look forward to seeing those open.
Yes, thank you very much.
Okay, now we're gonna go to 7.4, PB 2025-031, 758 Endicott Street North. Applicant is proposing to amend their previously approved site plan to amend the sidewalk requirement. Is the applicant here?
Hi, I'm Jonathan Booton for Chart Eye Land Holdings, the owner of the property.
Okay, nice to see you again.
You as well, thank you.
I got to accept this, though. Yeah.
Go right ahead.
Look for a motion to accept this application.
So moved.
Okay, by Gail, is there a second?
Second.
Amy, all right, thank you. All in favor, please signify by raising your hand. It's unanimous. All right, thank you. Continue, please. Thank you.
And I know that several full-size blow-ups were provided by the engineer in the application, but I have some 11 by 17s, if it would help anyone look at what they have in case it got printed out in letter size for your,
You've got something to hand out?
yeah, it's something that's already been submitted with the application. It's just a bigger copy that you can maybe see better.
I think we've got them right here. It's in our plans. Anybody need a copy of this?
You just get a bigger plan if you want that, just in
It's
case.
just a little bigger, might be easier
Yeah,
to
let's have
read.
one up here. Thank you.
There's only 10 on, but I got it. You got it?
That's what I got. It's the same thing. Okay. Just, I might leave
Oh, it's on this thing? Okay.
That's what I was looking for, I don't know.
I'm telling you, I have it on your home. Oh, yeah.
That's why we have all
I think it's sidewalk option PDF. Yeah, it is.
Whether I can touch the right button is the question.
You got fingers? Yeah, there you go. It's just this.
So the proposal that we submitted is to complete the driveway on the southerly portion of the driveway, which is the direction towards the Broken Spoke and Fun Spot, and to eliminate the sidewalk on the northerly side going up the hill on Route 3 for several reasons.
Towards
First,
Meredith.
towards Meredith, yeah. First, there's only one property in between this development and the town line, so that it really won't go anywhere. And
What's that development?
it's that rental cottage.
It's an old cottage colony.
I don't even know if it's open.
I don't think it is, but
Yeah.
it's
It's not open anymore.
Right.
Okay.
And then you hit the Meredith Town Line, so there'll be no continuation of a sidewalk after that. You won't be able to get to any of the other attractions like Pirates Cove, but I think it's somewhere between 1,000 and 1,500 feet away. So
What is 1,500 feet away?
the Pirates Cove, you know, anything someone would walk to is well beyond
The Pirates
town
Cove is in
line.
Meredith, right?
That's what I mean. It's
Yeah,
beyond the
so-
town line, so that there
Okay.
will be no sidewalk connection, no
Right,
matter
no.
what happens to that.
No, I get that. But my question is, when you come out of your property and you're gonna go left towards Meredith, how much what are we talking about of a sidewalk that won't be there if this gets approved?
I believe it's under 25% of the frontage of the property. I don't know the exact width of the driveway, but the vast majority of the frontage is on the southerly side where the sidewalk is being built.
But again, just an estimate, it's like 50 feet, 100 feet, what are we?
I would say probably 100, 125 feet.
Okay. Just to have a visual for
Yeah.
people, again, that aren't.
And that location in particular is also a very steep slope where the two properties meet. So joining a sidewalk, even if it was to be put in, is a very complicated thing. It also, that area of the lot is where they put a lot of the stormwater management systems in that have already been approved. Those would all have to be reworked and changed if we had to put a sidewalk into that area. So those are the reasons that we're asking for the waiver of that portion of the sidewalk. I have, the schematic here for the remaining sidewalk. It's gonna be a 4-foot sidewalk built within the right-of-way of Route 3. I'm happy to take a question
No,
now.
hold on.
I'm waiting for him to say it's
Hold on.
okay.
Okay.
So the part going to the south towards Roller Coaster Road,
Yep,
how long will that be footage-wise? Again, best guesstimate.
probably 200-300 feet.
Okay. Again, this is just for visual, for people to get a grip on that. Are you done? Or do you want to ask?
And,
a
I mean,
question?
there's a few other things I would point out on the handout that I gave you.
We'll wait, Bob. We'll
Yeah,
get
I'll
to
wait,
that.
okay.
So it's a 4-foot sidewalk, which is shown from the driveway to the property line along the top of the plan that you've been given. That is all within, except for maybe a tiny bit right where it meets our driveway. It might creep in our property a little bit, but the rest of it is in the right-of-way for the state. It is also so the swale is in between the sidewalk and the road. The sidewalk is gonna have a 2-degree slope to that swale to help drainage come off. The slopes from, if you're facing south on the right-hand side towards the property, not towards the road, are gonna be varying degrees, but they were able to, figure out an excavation site so that nothing's worse than a 3-to-1 slope, which will accept plantings and grass seed and things like that, so they'll be able to vegetate and help slow down water flow that way. It's about a 6% grade, it's about an 8% grade, which is normally outside the range of ADA compliant, but because it's consistent with the slope of Route 3, it actually is ADA compliant, because that's the alternative way to become compliant, is to match what the road is doing. And you'll see certain side cuts where they will be kind of changing and softening or making steeper the uphill towards the property slope on the side of the driveway away from the road. And then the culvert, it will exist pretty close in proximity to the sidewalk, within a few feet of it anyway. So, see, there won't be any retaining walls needed with keeping everything to a 3-to-1 slope. There is no impact to the sewer and water connection with this design. That's all gonna be able to be accommodated the way that it is. I think that's, you know, about as much as I have. I mean, I can go through the waiver requirements and why they would be given, but
Believe me, we know. I think everybody knows. Go ahead, Counselor, you had a question?
If I'm coming out of the driveway,
Me?
the right turn, that's where the sidewalk goes from.
Bob,
the dr-
Bob.
Oh, yeah,
I
I
gotta
do
go.
it all the time. Goes from the driveway south towards Roller Coaster Road.
correct.
Correct. And I know there's some other property between Roller Coaster Road and where the is that sidewalk connecting to another sidewalk?
No, it's not.
So at the end of the sidewalk towards Roller Coaster Road, what is it gonna come up against?
It just ends at the property line.
It just ends at the property line. Is that gonna be lit? Are you gonna have a couple of lights there so if people are walking down there at night or walking up there at night?
There's none currently in the plan. You know, the downlighting on the site, I mean, there was a whole bunch of requirements as to what was required on the site with downlighting and, you know, had to be not visible from the road, so.
Okay, and what's the material of the sidewalk? Is it asphalt or is it gonna be concrete?
Asphalt will be our preference. I was looking for a requirement in the site plan that it be another material. I didn't see it, but it'll be one of the two, certainly.
But there
Okay.
will be a curb, right?
There's no curb needed. the way they-
No curb will be needed, because it'll be up high enough?
Yeah, it'll be away from
And
the
what's-
swale, and there won't be walls on the.
Okay, so is it at street level or is it higher than street level?
It appears to me to be slightly higher than the street level in most instances, down towards the bottom. If you look on this thing, you see an 8
Yep.
STA 0 plus 0, 0. And then if you look on the top bar, the 0.0 is the left-hand dotted line where the property ends.
Okay.
So, you know, at 0 and at 25 feet further up, that's all pretty much at road level. And then as you go up the site towards the driveway, it does get above road level a little
What
bit.
is the approximate distance between the edge of the sidewalk and the road?
I would say it looked, you know, I had to just use the scale, but about 8 to 10 feet, depending.
That's good.
Okay, and that's gonna be is it gonna be grass or gravel or just roadway?
In between the sidewalk,
I'm concerned about between the sidewalk and the road.
there is the existing state swale that's already there, so that will remain in place.
Okay, and the
Whether
swale
they
goes-
require any improvements to it, you know, we don't know yet, but
Okay, and the swale goes into the property, not into the road?
the swale, yeah.
The
so-
drainage swale is what
The
I'm
drainage swale, we've already accommodated a culvert under the driveway entrance. Further down at the end of the property, there's another culvert over the abutters, under the abutters, entrance. I don't know that the swale is actually linked on his property, but we can't go in there and do anything about that.
My only concern, okay,
I'm the abutter,
Oh, okay.
and we will continue the
Sir,
sidewalks.
hello, come on up front if you're gonna talk.
Brian Hiskey with Meredith Crossing. Our plan is to continue the sidewalk with our project. So we would continue it on down. The swale does come down, goes through a culvert, which will be on his driveway, goes through a culvert underneath our existing driveway and into the retention pond on the lower part of, and to the right of our property as you exit it towards Roller Coaster
Roller
Road.
Coaster Road, okay, that's fine. My biggest concern was vehicles going up and down that road, especially coming down,
Down,
okay?
yes.
Because you're coming down a long hill,
Yes, you are.
okay? And I'm worried about somebody getting into that sidewalk. That was my, you know, from my years of driving a cruiser up in that area, that's probably the biggest thing that I was worried about. I mean, that's the reason why I asked about the lighting.
Yeah, they didn't know I was gonna be here, but we are here to actually support their proposal, and we're here to tell you that we are gonna continue the sidewalk down. The swale is there, and we will do,
I'm gonna have you come up, did we
I'll
already do
come
pub-
back.
Did we do public comment already? on
No,
this?
we haven't.
No.
No.
Hold that for.
I will.
Then you come back. Thank you.
but I just wanted to make a connection.
I put in the lighting,
Yeah.
that's my big.
I mean, Counselor Susie, that was our, you know, concern that, you know, they're gonna end the sidewalk and then they're gonna walk out to Route 3 and they're gonna have to cross a swale to do it.
I expected that they were gonna solve that. My concern is, really comes right back to the errant driver coming southbound or whichever way, yeah.
There's a
That
pretty
long
good
hill.
margin between the edge of the road and the sidewalk. At least as far as Endicott's property, you know, where it ends up later, I don't wanna speculate.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you. Stand by. Now we'll open this up for public comment at 7:25. We finally have somebody to comment on something. Come on up, please. And if you can, again, give your name and address, that'd be great.
Yes, it's Brian Iskey, and I am Meredith Crossing, the abutter property to Endicott, and residence is 86 Spindlewick, Nashua, New Hampshire, and also Summit Avenue here. Yeah, our intention is to tie into their sidewalk and continue the flow towards the spoke and all that, and make it a safe egress there. There is a swell, there will be, pipes underneath the driveways, and it does go into a retention pond on our property, actually, all the water coming down. And above that, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to us looking at it, and we're also afraid that it will cause us additional water to come down and really kind of wash our area out. So we're kind of in favor of their proposal as it currently stands. Any other questions of me?
Oh, I just love it when I hear common sense. So, if you have a question, go ahead.
I do. At previous meetings when we talked about this, there was some discussion about the sidewalk, if it was to be installed as originally thought, that it would end at the retention pond. So I understand that retention pond is on your property, and if you're considering continuing the sidewalk, how are we getting around this retention pond?
We're looking into that. We are concerned that there's not how much space we have there, and that is an issue. Whether or not we can cut into the area where the retention pond is or not, and safely do a sidewalk all the way up to the parking lot of the retail establishment just down from us. People would walk up there, which is directly across from the Tamarack, I guess it's called, right? And then Broken Spoke and all that, Road Closter Road. So we're looking at that to see how far we can bring that down. The other thing, the problematic thing is the swale as it comes down and then it feeds into the pond. So it would be additional drainage underneath there if we continue the sidewalk, and we'll look at that plan, and we're gonna be submitting it to you once we get it figured out.
Thank you.
You bet. Thank you.
Anybody else in the public like to comment on this? You getting all this? Okay. All right, we'll close the public commentary at 7:27 on this application. Staff, commentary, please. You guys.
So to read into the findings of fact for the acceptance of the application, the planning board granted conditional approval to the initial site plan at its July 11th, 2023 meeting. The planning board approved an amendment to its prior approval at its May 7th, 2024 meeting. The planning board denied an amendment to remove the sidewalk requirement from the conditions of approval on December 3rd, 2024. The planning board found the application submitted to them on January 7th, 2025 to be incomplete. To invoke their review jurisdiction, they advised the applicant to submit plans, clarify their proposed request, which the applicant submitted this time. The applicant did not attend the technical review committee meeting on January 21st, 2025, but we do have a couple recommended conditions of approval, and they are: the proposed sidewalk improvements must be reviewed and approved by the New Hampshire Department of Transportation and Laconia Department of Public Works. Any changes to the proposed sidewalk improvements required by NHDOT and Laconia Department of Public Works must be included in the final plans. And then 4 revised final plan sets, including the approved sidewalk improvements, must be submitted to, reviewed, and approved by the planning department. That's that.
Okay, that was right to the point. Excuse me, please. Any more questions or comments? Go ahead, Amy.
So if they didn't go the technical review, DPW has no,
So, because it's on a DOT road and the state has jurisdiction,
it's theirs.
the state has jurisdiction over it.
Okay,
We just added the condition in there, so at least we would get a review in that process.
got it. Thank you.
Challenge me.
Go ahead, Counselor.
Question, Rob, okay? Is there anything that we can do, because I am concerned about the safety side, okay? you come down that hill, and I know I've picked them up before doing 50, 60 miles an hour, okay? You know, with no lights or just headlights at night, and the broken spoke right there and everything else, okay? I'm just concerned about that. There's nothing we can do that because the site plan's already been approved? Is that, or is that something we even want to take up? That's my question.
I think it's a complex situation because it's
State
outside the
road.
urban compact on a state road. And I would have to defer that to DPW to answer the question on putting, I think he's already left.
Okay.
For the streetlight aspect of it. I don't think there's anything that we can do in the site plan regulations because we wouldn't require, I don't think we would require streetlights on an application like this. And it was already approved, and all we're doing is amending the one condition for the sidewalks.
I bring it up for a couple, number one, I'm worried about the safety side of it, and secondly, I'm also thinking about the developer. Something happens on that sidewalk, somebody gets whacked vehicle, where's the liability gonna fall? And I don't want the city to be exposed in that sense.
Well, the city won't be exposed. I speak from experience on this, as the Motorcycle Week Association was sued because a driver who was intoxicated hit two pedestrians further south, and we were sued, as was the city, and I believe the state, because there were no sidewalks there, et
Whoever
cetera,
has
et
the
cetera,
biggest
and no lights. And the first thing the court did was bump the city off the lawsuit and the state, so don't worry about it.
I'm also, okay, but I'm still concerned about those two pedestrians.
Well, I think that,
And like Rob says, if there's not much we can do at this point.
well, I think as more and more development happens along that stretch, I mean, you go a little further south, past Fun Spot, it's a very dark area down there, very dark area. And I think at some point, the state may be asked to, or they may try to push it on the city, but to invest on street lighting up there. I don't think it should be up to the developers to put streetlights out there. And I think in the meantime, and I understand your concern about erratic drivers, but that can happen whether they've got a 2-foot curb there. I mean,
Oh.
somebody can come up over it.
Very easy.
One thing possibly that the state could do to help out is maybe take some yellow fluorescent paint and put it along the edge of the sidewalk, even though it's removed off the road. And that may, actually though, that might be the wrong thing to do, because that may encourage people to go over towards it.
Go over towards it.
So, but they've got, I think, you said 8 feet or about that, between the edge of the road and where the sidewalk is, and my
And
word.
there's also a swale,
Yeah.
which isn't gonna
No,
slow
no,
a car going 50 miles an hour down, but it'll hopefully alert someone that's just
Can only hope.
edging off the road as opposed to careening.
Yeah, we've seen everything, but again, as far as the traffic lights go, I think that's definitely something further down the road for the state or the city, certainly not property
So I do
owners.
know, there's a separate project that the state is also reviewing, and there's a traffic study being done on that intersection right now, looking at possible ways to improve flow there and pedestrian safety.
A
And with-
traffic study?
Yeah, there's a large traffic study going on right now.
A large
So,
one? Jeez.
I think there'll probably be some changes at that intersection
I
anyways.
can only
So,
imagine.
that's coming with a different project.
Hopefully they come to the city before they jump on everything and run it by people that live here, and
I am sure you will discuss it in
sure I
great
will.
depth.
Okay, great. Well, I think this is, a fine plan to do this.
So just to be clear, Mr. Chair, they just don't want to build the part on the north side of the driveway. That's
Right,
what we're
be-
voting
be-
on.
Right,
Okay,
because,
that's it. All right.
again, because, and people can jump in, but our whole discussion about this, argument
Right, yeah, I remember.
for having this sidewalk was because of the amount of traffic, foot traffic that's gonna be generated going.
Oh, no, I know why we want the sidewalk, and they're gonna walk there whether there's a sidewalk or not, so it's preferable that there is a sidewalk, in my opinion. But
Okay.
they just want to discontinue that little part
Heading north towards Meredith.
heading north to what right is now appears to be an empty,
Well,
whatever it is, but there's nothing that says that that wouldn't get developed, and that at some point down the future, we have a 150-foot gap between the sidewalk we make them build and this,
Well, the next people will be building a sidewalk too, so.
but they wouldn't be building it across his frontage. They would only be building it to that property
So if
line.
they're walking north, they're gonna walk on the street rather than a proposed sidewalk, right?
Right. That's what I'm hearing. That's what I'm understanding.
I just can't resist saying, why would anybody walk north out of there? So, okay, sorry.
Other broken spokes, they walk anywhere.
Okay, we're digressing here and eating up time.
I just wanted to make sure I knew what we were voting on, Mr. Chair,
Okay,
that's all.
I will look for a motion on this application, or for the correction, or however we're gonna look at it.
I motion to
Motion?
accept it.
Your motion too, just
Accept.
read.
Oh, approve it.
Motion
I move to
approve.
approve application PB 2025-031 for 758 Endicott Street North with the conditions of approval presented in the staff report.
I'll second it.
Okay, any more discussion?
I spoke quite harshly against giving a variance for the sidewalk, but,
Into the mic, please.
the plan for the sidewalk going south, I think it gets the goal that we were looking for, so I'm gonna be in favor of this.
Okay. Anybody else?
I would agree with what Mike said. This is a compromise that I think they've met what we were looking for, although it's not from corner to corner, in other words, the whole front, but this is something that I think is, for safety purposes, will work.
Yeah, I don't know if I like the word compromise. I think this is just a good plan.
Okay.
New plan that works, so, thank you, all, and, we'll take a vote on this now. All in favor? Raise your hands. All opposed? Okay, we gotta do a little counting here. 1, 2, 3, 4,
Oh, I was
5,
only opposed.
6 in favor,
Two.
and 2 against. Okay, thank you, and thank you, you guys.
Good night, appreciate it.
Okay, next we're gonna hear,
White Oaks, the parcel.
yep, that's right there. Next, we're at 8.1, this is PB 2025-040 White Oaks Road. The applicant is proposing to build 4 separate structures with 14 townhouse-style units. You guys came before us, first of all, give us your name and
Yeah, good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. For the record, my name is Jeff Merritt. I'm an engineer with Granite Engineering. We're the civil site engineers for the project. I have with me in the audience Melissa Marquis. Melissa is the applicant for this project. We don't have an engineered plan for you. We have a concept for you. We're here before we've done any design, looking for some initial feedback from the board. And I'll kind of walk you through it. It sounds like maybe the board is familiar with where this property is and maybe has heard past proposals on it.
excuse me, 1 second. Do we need to accept this?
Nope.
Because it's a conceptual, right?
It's conceptual.
Okay, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
no, fine. So this is the property right at the corner of White Oaks Road and State Route 11B. It is roughly 1.7 acres in land area, so just under 2 acres. It's located within the commercial resort district, and it is within the performance zoning overlay district. We have frontage on 11B, and then we have frontage on White Oaks Road, so there's 2 different sections of frontage. One is accessible, and then if you're familiar with the property, the other, the state route, is really not accessible. It's the path of most resistance. It's largely undeveloped, as you know, mostly a grass field there. I think there's a few outbuildings, a few sheds there, but no principal structures are on it. There is a paved driveway off of White Oaks Road, right in the center of the frontage there. And then there is sewer and water in this area that could service the property. The proposal is what we show on the plan here. We're seeking some input on a layout that shows 14 townhouses. These would be residential homes. We show them in 4 different buildings. So there's, if you look at the plan, there's 2 buildings kind of to the north and 2 buildings to the south. The buildings to the north are fourplexes, so there's 4 units in each of those 2 buildings. And then the buildings to the south, there's 2 buildings there with 3 units in each of them. The townhouses really work well on this property. Again, if you're familiar with the property slopes from the south to the north, so south is high, north is low. So the way these would work is they would kind of step themselves down the hill. The southern units would be kind of tucked into the grade, whereas the northern units would drop down, if you will, and walk out on the lower level. So the townhouses work well with the topography on the site. Each townhouse would have a single-car garage, and then there would be parking in front of the garage in the driveway, and we've shown some cars just for scale on the plan there. Access would largely be from the same location. We'd obviously change the shape of the driveway and the size of the driveway to accommodate a formal development as opposed to the field there, but it's essentially in the same location that it is today. In the interior of the development, as you come in, you can see that oval there. We've shown like an oval landscaped island that kind of helps prevent a linear row of townhouses, gives it some shape and form. And then on the west side of the property, right over here, there's a handful of visitor parking spaces. There's not a ton of density out here. We don't think that we need a lot of visitor spaces, but we have shown some there. You'll note that there isn't a dumpster shown out here. We're thinking it would be private trash removal, so that we don't think there's a need for a dumpster. The totes would be in the garages, wheeled out on trash day, and then wheeled back. And then no clubhouse. Again, the density really isn't to the level that a clubhouse would be utilized, or and it would certainly contribute to some higher association fees, which isn't necessary here. There is some green space around the units that we're showing. The center landscaped area, we may have a plan to do some seating in that area, depending on what the landscape architect works out. And then on the plan here, we show a sidewalk. We'd likely reconstruct that sidewalk to provide some pedestrian connectivity, not just for our development, but there's a sidewalk to the south here. And then there's already a tip down and a detectable warning on 11B right there, so we'd locate the new sidewalk to coincide with that current crossing. So we'd enhance the pedestrian connectivity. In terms of utilities, again, sewer and water's out there, we'd have to obviously tie into that. In terms of drainage, the site again drops as you go north, so high is to the south, low is to the north. Our thought would be to do stormwater on the low end here. Likely bioretention pond. We do those often when we are trying to marry stormwater with landscaping. It's a nice way to do both. So we may look at doing some sort of bioretention system. We got to do some testing and that kind of stuff to make sure it would work, but that would be the initial thought, at least. So that's our project. We did meet with staff originally, and we understand we need a conditional use permit to do this within the performance district. And again, we don't have anything designed. We're really here just for some initial feedback from you folks. And if you have some, that would be great. I do have the applicant here, and she's happy to answer questions, as am I.
Well, I have one question. How tall are these gonna be?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know. We haven't had the units designed yet, height-wise. I can tell you that, like I told you in the presentation there, with the topography out there, the intent would be these uphill ones would be kind of, the best way to describe them would be drive under. So on the access side, you'd see 3 stories, and then on the back side, you'd see 2. So you kind of build them into the grade out there. And then the reverse on this side, on the north side, where you would enter 2 stories on that side, on the driveway side, and then 3 stories on the north side. So we're gonna work with the topography there and step it down the hill.
But you're thinking 2 stories, basically?
2 full living stories, and then either a partial floor below grade. So usually there's a bonus room on the lower ends where you can daylight the basement, if you will.
So potentially we're looking at 30 feet, potentially we're looking at 30 feet tall?
With the pitch of the roofs, you could be all of 35. Yeah.
35 feet.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Bob.
I'm just trying to visualize, because it's the first time I see this, 'cause I usually not coming, but if I come down White Oaks Road, I go to the end of White Oaks Road, coming up to Route 11B, okay? On the left-hand side, if I remember right, there's a lot of these, like, tiny houses or trailers and stuff like that. This is below that?
Yeah, this is the RVs.
Yeah.
Yeah, RVs are here.
Okay.
And then this is below. So these guys are, there's actually a retaining wall on the property line there. They're topographically.
Yeah, they're stepped down as you watch.
Yeah, like White Oaks Road keeps climbing as you go south.
Right.
So they're topographically above us. How much, I'm not entirely sure.
Okay, but you're thinking about 35 feet, correct? Roughly.
Let's use that number. Yeah, don't quote me on it because we haven't done the final design.
Right, so
but
I mean, this isn't the
that's a
final
typical-
approval anyhow, I'm just.
Understood,
you know.
yeah.
I would hate to see them taller.
Okay.
Well, I can see a lot of people with the tiny homes behind them not, you understand? And I'm not saying that's not our problem, but.
No, I always encourage people to buy property if they want to protect their view. And I want to apologize for calling those trailers. They're not trailers, they're RVs, so I apologize on that. It was misspoken. Gail, you had a,
The only concern I have, and this is in the preliminary stages, so we're gonna, at least I am, gonna ask more questions about this, is especially during construction, I'm worried about runoff.
Yeah.
That's a really steep slope, it's a very busy intersection. I don't know what the soils consist of, and I don't know if you've gotten that far, but as you develop the plan, I think you ought to be mindful that we're gonna wanna know what's running off into Route 11B, the state's gonna wanna know
Yeah.
that. And, that's really my only concern. I mean, I've no problem with the project itself, just to kinda
Yeah.
forewarned is forearmed.
No, I appreciate that. And, that's part of the really the design, the guts of the design. So we have to do a stormwater design, we have to do a grading design. Part of that is an erosion control design for during construction and how it's managed. So that will be part of the plan set. Obviously, we can't get to that right now, but
No,
that's
I understand that. I'm just saying that that's
something we'll
going to be a concern
yeah.
before some of the members, or most of the members, certainly staff,
Yeah.
on that.
We'll be prepared to explain that then if we come back.
Okay.
Thank you for that.
so, oh, go ahead, you have a question?
I got a question for staff. Would this require a traffic study? That's, the driveway is very close to the intersection right there. That's, if you're headed toward the Weirs down the hill, and you're gonna turn left on a White Oak Road, that gets interesting at times with traffic coming both ways.
So, we can initiate, traffic studies in a couple different ways. DPW can recommend that during their TRC process, or the planning board can condition that when they come to the planning board as well.
Yeah, okay.
So, two different avenues for that, but I think the applicant has heard us and your concerns, I'm sure they'll address that.
I don't know what they could, I mean, I don't know, yeah, there's a lot of traffic there, but I don't know what you could
There's
do.
no-
I mean,
right.
you're gonna have to wait to
Well,
pull
that
out.
lot was subdivided off when they sold from the RV park.
Right, yeah.
I also think that Lake Region Planning Commission has done some traffic study there, and they do some counts. They've got a lot of data available specifically for that area, because we do a lot with Motorcycle Week during that period. And I think the state has a report that's incoming to them as well, that they might be able to obtain.
And it's not just Motorcycle Week, I mean, it's all summer long.
It's all summer long, absolutely. I think,
Realistically, it's not a lot of units either.
I can't remember whether we required one of the gardens when that went in, just kind of a little bit further up the road. And DOT required them to do add an additional turn lane up there.
I can't imagine having to do a traffic study here, but that's just my opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's traffic. I hope that, well, first of all, is this gonna be condos? Is this gonna be a condo village?
Yeah, it will be a condominium, correct.
Okay, and I hope you're gonna plan for, a lot of vegetation, trees or whatever, between you guys and, Endicott Street there, State Route 11B.
Yeah, one of the, some of the feedback that we got from staff initially was that the board was looking for landscaping in a lot of other projects, and that was very important to the city. So we do have it on our list to have a landscape architect do a plan, and they'll do that in conjunction with our grading design so that it's appropriate.
Anything you could do to tap down the stark reality of these 30-foot or 35-foot buildings all of a sudden being on that stretch of property. So, you know, anything you can do to, I'm sure that the scheme of the buildings will blend in with the area, so, you know, they won't be bright red buildings or something like that. I mean, the sky's the limit, and God forbid I'm the person to say what color anything should be, but.
No, I don't believe there's any plans for red. Can we agree to that?
Well, you
But,
get my.
but I get your drift. I
Get
understand.
my drift, and again, because there will be, and I'm sensitive to it, Mike knows I'm sensitive to it, I think most people do, very high buildings up in that area there, and, I mean, I think this is a good plan.
So some landscaping to help with the scale of the buildings.
Correct. Anybody else? It was good. Okay, I think we've done that. I appreciate you bringing this forward. Did you have anything you wanted to say?
No, I'm just.
Okay.
Do you have anything?
Okay.
We're excited about the project.
You're excited about it?
We are. Yeah, we are excited.
Love
about it.
hearing that
I
word.
live in the area. I live in Guilford, actually. So this is
When do you think you'll break ground on this?
ideally, I'd love to just be looking at foundations from late fall.
Okay, I should have had you come up front to say that. But
Melissa Markey.
Would-
We're hoping for late fall. Obviously, it all depends on getting all the proper planning together and getting everything in front of you, but that certainly is our hope.
do you live in the area now?
I live right in Guilford.
In Guilford?
Yes. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Jeez.
I'm right over the border.
Write that down, will you?
So I'm just gonna strike?
Absolutely.
Yeah. If it helps, I lived in Laconia a long, long time.
Oh, even worse, you left us.
I'm gonna just remove myself right now.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else here? Well, I look forward to seeing your future plans, and good luck with the planning.
We appreciate the input. Thanks for the board's time.
Okay. Now we are at Planning Department Monthly Report. 9.1, I can't wait.
All right, so a very exciting news. We have our, a meeting with, the contractor for that's doing our impact fee study next week. We got some preliminary data, and by all accounts, our impact fees are exceptionally lower than everybody else's impact fees that have recently had studies and adopted impact fees by almost 300%. So I foresee that City Council will be very interested in getting that data when we get our final report. We had 2 administrative review applications this month. We had our second application for accessory dwelling units that come in for an admin review. We had a new business move into downtown for a salon. We had a meeting with our downtown TIF where we talked about submitting for a possible grant project, and we're going to be requesting some funding from city. Well, we're going to have a proposal to go to City Council to request some funds for landscaping for this summer to enhance the downtown area. We had 1 application go before zoning board this last month for a side setback, which was approved.
And what was that for?
A side setback.
And they approved it?
Yep.
Okay. Just teasing.
So that is, that's very short in a nutshell. There was other projects that obviously we're working on that are not ready for public consumption yet. There's another letter that I also have on the agenda. It's our waiver process, and additionally, I'd like to add developments of regional impact as we're doing some additional research for future projects. So last month we kind of discussed waivers such as the sidewalks that we heard tonight. We would like to amend that process so that we are not accepting an application until we have approved or disproved their waivers. So I've kind of highlighted what the process would be, and I'll start at the beginning.
So you're saying that, okay, go ahead, because you're going to say.
Yeah, so the planning department will receive an application with a waiver. we're gonna make a recommendation to the applicant that they concurrently submit plans that meet all of our site plan and subdivision requirements. So that is on them if they choose not to do that, hoping wholly on the approval of a waiver. So we are going to guide them that you're requesting the waiver, but you should still probably submit everything that meets all of our requirements. The next phase of that would be, it goes to application acceptance. And then the applicants would have to come before the board and discuss their waivers. Before we vote to accept their application, they'll have to go through all the criteria in the site plan and subdivision regulations to show that they meet that. So then the board can either, one, approve the waiver, and then accept the application, and once both those things happen, you can hold your public hearing as normal. If the board voted to deny the waiver, if plans have not been submitted that meet the site plan subdivision regulations, the board will then vote to table the application until plans have been updated to reflect all requirements outlined in our site plan and subdivision regulations. If they submitted them concurrently with us, as we suggested to them at the beginning, then you would accept their application as complete and still move forward.
Okay, so it would be a table and not a continuance.
Table, it would be
Well, I mean-
table or continue, but we would table it until they,
And we would do that all in one meeting.
Yep.
So there'd be the waiver, then there'd be the waiver requests, if any, then there would be acceptance as complete or incomplete, and then
Yep.
there would be the actual public hearing. All right.
Yep, and I think so that's more in line with what the state would recommend that we do, and I think that's better practice as a board that we do. That would prohibit issues of sidewalks in the future. So I think that's a better process, so that's
Well,
what,
it may not prevent issues, but it would save them, the applicant, another month of having to come back.
Yep.
Yeah.
That should be the most important thing to an applicant, I would think.
I agree. So that's the process we would like to do. And if the board is amenable to that, I would just like a little, perhaps motion to say that we agree with that, and that's what you want us to do.
I'd make that motion unless anybody else has something to add. I think it makes perfect sense.
I got a question for you.
Well, we've had a motion made. You're
Well, no,
making
I
a
just
motion.
said I would make it unless somebody else had other questions, so if Bob's got a
Okay,
question.
well,
then-
we could have that discussion, but go ahead.
Oh, okay, I'll make a motion that we accept the planning department's recommendation for a three-step process towards applications if in fact a waiver is requested.
Okay, is there a second to that?
Second.
Okay, now we'll have discussion. Go ahead, Counselor.
Are you talking about just this section
Well-
2? Are you talking about just section 2 in this memo, or is it section 3 also?
So that would be the process, it would be the process 1, 2, and 3.
Okay. And then down below, you have a discussion reference.
That's my next topic of discussion.
Okay, that's the one where I'm gonna get hung up on.
Yeah, that's my next one.
Okay.
So this is just for the proposed waiver process, and that'd be steps 1, 2, and 3.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Okay, I look for, all in
I made the
favor?
motion,
Raise your hands. Okay, it's unanimous. Thank you. Okay, Rob.
So then, initially, as we're kind of looking at a larger project coming through, we realized that we don't have anything in writing that defines what we, as a planning board, call a development of regional impact, which we presume that we'll have eventually here come through the planning board. So we kind of came up with what we thought the criteria should look like based off of the state RSA 3654. So I'd kind of like to go over what we felt was a good standard. It is what we as staff came up with. It is not anything binding. Whatever you decide as a board would like is what we're gonna go with. But we thought we needed to have a starting point, and this is my starting point.
Okay, yeah, in my experience, that's kind of fuzzy language. I understand what they're getting at, but they haven't really laid out any particular criteria that you have to
So
follow.
that's why I wanted to have some solid criteria for us to say, yep, it meets A, B, C, D. So I picked 350 dwelling units, that's 5% of our current housing stock. We've not typically seen a project that comes in that's more than 300. So anything that would be that benchmark we would then automatically ding as a regional impact. Then non-residential projects that are over 100,000 square feet of gross commercial retail floor space. We recommend that also get dinged as a regional impact. Projects that are within 300 yards of municipal boundaries that require DOT driveway permits. Industrial projects with anticipated emissions such as light, noise, smoke, odors, or particles. And projects that impact aquifers or surface waters transcending municipal boundaries. And all shared facilities such as schools and solid waste disposal facilities. That last sixth one is a mandatory one as outlined in 3654. Everything else I added to make it a little bit more restrictive.
I have a couple of, Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead, Bob.
I think your 350 is too high,
I was gonna say that, I agree with Bob.
okay?
I think 350 is way too
So-
high.
And I understand where you're coming from. I also, if I may, okay, I also want to make sure that the city, whether it's the planning board, the city council, or anything else, in public works, okay, we know there's gonna be, to me, an explosion of development in certain areas of the city. And I want to make sure that we look at it part of our master plan, which I know you do, okay? And also the regional master plan, okay? And I think 350 is too high a number, because if I look at 350, that's a lot.
What would you
okay?
recommend?
I'd like to see us get down like 200 maybe, in that area, okay? And it's nothing that says that we can't just turn around and say, okay, but I want to make sure there's some, whether it's not barriers, but there's some checkpoints or tolls along the way that
Well,
manage.
so none of this is a barrier. All this is we're setting a limit of, all this does is affect, we have to notice the abutting municipalities.
Fine.
That's all this is. It's not restricting anybody or slowing any process down. It just says, we're gonna have to have an additional fee come in to notice the abutting municipalities.
So
So
is
it's
it,
Raise the
really-
impact fees at the same time, okay? But I mean.
is it a big deal to make it 200?
No, it's no big deal whatsoever. I was just setting a measurable starting point of where we wanted to start at. And I picked the 350 because it was 5% of our current housing stock. That's where that came from. I also kind of looked at the largest development we've approved at a single time, which we did not notice as a regional impact, was 291 units.
Where was that?
Langley Cove,
Oh, God, yeah, I forget.
which is being built out right now.
Right, but it's also creating a regional impact. Especially
And
in
I
our
was
sur-
not on planning board then, and
Yeah, I know,
and
that
I'm
was
trying
a
to
long time
remedy some
ago, yeah.
things.
Right.
So that's why I'm asking for, that we set a standard.
Because I'm thinking about water, sewer, all
So,
the other aspects of it.
so would everybody here be okay with lowering that to 200?
I think actually with no prior collusion, I actually agree with Bob. That was kind of the number I had in my head as well, was 200,
No,
you
you
know?
two aren't colluding.
So,
I can agree with that.
So.
every now and
Are
then,
you
great
guy-
minds
are
think
you,
alike.
Both of you okay with that, 200? Okay, so I don't think we need to vote on that. You hear us loud and clear on the 200.
I
concur
would
with
like
that.
you just so that, it's on record and that's what our standard is.
To approve all of these things with the change of the 350 to 200?
And then what our process would be, because we're gonna add this now to all the staff reports that come in. So now when you vote to accept an application, you're also gonna be acknowledging it's a regional impact or it's not a regional impact. So that way, every project that comes in, we're now on record, that meets the intent of the RSA, and it kinda makes us.
And that just gives the neighboring communities a heads up and an opportunity to come to a public hearing and
Yep.
weigh in if they,
Yep,
are
they
for or
can't
against
appeal
any
anything.
partic-
All they can do is
Right.
provide us some additional input.
Mhm.
But they have no appeal ability, and all we're doing is sending a letter to Lakes Region Plan Commission as well.
Yeah, no,
Do budding communities have this in place?
Yes.
Any of them now?
So what's interesting is we looked at other communities and other staff reports, and nobody actually seems to be doing this, and we've not done it either.
So we'll be a trendsetter.
So we're setting a standard. We're a trendsetter, and we're kind of a notch above
Yeah.
everybody else.
I think we should.
Actually, Mr. Chair, Concord does it, because I did land use in Canterbury, and there's a lot of development in Boscawen, which is just the community just south, and we got notified of just about everything they did,
It's
so,
not that
I
people
mean,
don't
it is in
notify.
place, you
It's
know.
not that people don't notify, it's that people
Yeah.
aren't putting it in their staff report.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Oh, okay, yeah.
People are still noticing it, but we didn't have a set standard, and that's what we wanted to make sure that we were
Oh, okay.
relaying, is that this is what our standard is,
Yeah,
and now
I
we've
know.
got it in writing.
Yeah.
But all this is a notice.
Yeah, and most of the development that we were notified on in the town of Canterbury referencing Boscawen happens to be commercial, because it built a big market basket down there. There's a lot of commercial development.
The
off
only
of
thing we're
that.
trend setting it for is nobody puts it in their staff report, and we want to put it
Right.
in our staff report.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll make the motion, if that helps you.
Thank you.
And I'll second it.
This is to do everything, or the 200?
All of it with the 200.
All of it with the 200.
Okay.
Perfect.
All in favor? Unanimous, okay, thank you. All right,
That's all I had. I felt like that was enough.
what about, do we need this, you wanna go over this, we don't need to go over this.
I already
do we?
went over that.
Okay.
It's not in there. If you don't mind me kind of, what's the word for it? Improvising. There's a lot off of Blueberry Lane. Is it? It's on Blueberry Lane.
No, it's off of Industrial Drive, I think.
Right, it's where the Bean Conference Center is.
Right.
It's currently zoned residential single family. And, there's been a lot of market interest in it, and it abuts residential, the RA district. And a lot of the developers that have called interested in this parcel are really more looking to do a multifamily use. So we didn't know if perhaps the board would be interested in redistricting that one parcel to the RA district, or leaving it RS and us telling applicants to go before the zoning board.
Isn't there another parcel on Industrial Drive that somebody's looking at the same thing?
No,
The Industrial Park?
somebody did come in and speak with me about a parcel in the off of Lexington.
Right, Lexington, that's what I meant.
To put residential there, but we don't permit residential in industrial zones.
And that's right in the middle.
And that's right in the middle of it.
Right, that
And
was-
it's a very, that lot is a very difficult lot. There's, the owner of that has already come in and discussed doing some additional amendments to his already approved site plan. So I don't see that one, where anybody proposing to change that to industrial, but as this lot off Blueberry Lane already abutted residential apartment district, we kind of thought it was more in line with what was actually being, how it could potentially be developed, as it's currently a conference center.
Are we, if I may,
Go ahead.
are we adding a lot more population density to that neighborhood?
So as it's a residential single family, it only allows for one unit there. And this would allow for, I think it's a 2.4 acre lot, and the RA density allows for 9 units per acre. So I think potentially you could put 21 units on there, somewhere about that.
Okay.
You still have wetland buffers to contend with and some site plan constraints, but I think that parcel is more in line with RA as opposed to residential single family.
Is this something we have to do tonight?
No, I was just asking what the board's input was or thought was.
I only had one question, and that is, how is this not spot zoning?
You just have to notice every abutter that abuts that parcel.
Okay.
Is it possible to get us a printout? so we
Yeah,
can-
absolutely. I was just asking what
Yeah,
the board's input was, only because there's been some interest on it, and I thought I would.
Yes, if you
I
could
would
get
ask.
us, the actual plan and show it.
Sure.
That would be great, because then maybe we can make it more
I absolutely can. That's why I was
educated-
asking for the
educated
input.
guess. Okay. Right, anything else for Rob?
Well, yeah, new business. No, not for Rob,
No,
no.
that's new business.
The other thing,
Old business.
so our
Business new-
our site plan review and subdivision regulations, I think, were last updated in 2009 and in 15, and there's been a lot of law changes since then and amendments that have gone through. We would like to go out to bid. We have a little bit of money to see if we can get them rewritten. I just was looking to see if the board was on board with getting some of our regulations updated so they meet current standards.
Of course.
Okay. So we'll probably be going out to bid for that in the next week or so. But
We're gonna get to that, Gail.
Yeah, all right.
Okay, we'll go to liaison reports, city council. Counselor, nothing? Okay. Lakes Region Planning Commission, anything on that?
They're not meeting again until March, so.
Okay, you can keep reminding us of that. Okay, Conservation Commission, we've talked about this in the past, getting a new representative because Gail,
Yeah, I can no longer do it, and I think that the board needs, I think that needs to go to a formal motion so that the city council can actually act on it.
we
I
have to
think
have a
that's.
volunteer too.
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, the last couple of times that it got brought up in a meeting, there isn't anybody that's willing to serve on the Conservation Commission.
So what can the city council do, order somebody?
I don't know that they can do that.
Shaking his head,
But,
yes.
I don't know, I don't believe the city council has the power to order somebody to do something. But I don't know. All I know is that,
can't
this
do it.
board put me on the Conservation Commission as is its right, and this board can take, and I'm asking that this board either put it to a vote or do whatever it is that you have to do, that I cannot
No, that's
meet that
fine.
time commitment.
No, that's fine. Gail, remind us again how often that meets in a.
They
in a
meet
month?
twice.
Twice a month.
They meet twice a month. There have been efforts to change that, but the board doesn't want to do that. They want to meet twice a month.
And do they post what's gonna be on the agenda?
Oh, yeah, I mean, they.
So you as the representative of planning board, I suppose, could pick and choose, or whoever, could pick and choose, well, there's nothing tonight or at this meeting that bears me being there or not? Is that
You
possible?
could certainly pick and choose which meetings you wanted to go to, and then if there wasn't an application that was going for a conditional use permit, not go to them until they had an application that was going for a conditional use permit.
Okay. Is there anybody here that would like to volunteer? What time of night do these meet?
I
6
believe they
p.m.
meet at 6.
6 p.m.
And Wednesdays, I haven't participated in
No,
almost 6
I'm
months.
just asking,
I think it was Wednesday nights that they meet.
They meet, I think it's the first and third
Or first and
Wednesday
third Wednesdays.
of every month.
Yeah.
At 6 p.m.
Okay. Again, is there anybody to volunteer to be able to attend these things? I would do it, but
Well, it's an important board. I'm not trying to diminish what
No,
they
no,
do,
we're not, and that's
but
why we're looking
I just
for
don't have
somebody
the
to be
time
there.
to make that commitment.
We need somebody there.
No, maybe if the board takes a month to think about it and pick
We
somebody
get
who's certain-
reports, we get reports. What is the purpose of somebody being there from this board? To be a liaison? What is the purpose?
So I don't have to say the report.
So
That's
you what?
basically it.
No, that's basically the gist of it is that you have somebody that represents your interest going to the Conservation Commission and providing their input when an applicant goes for the conditional use permit for projects that are impacting the wetland buffer.
But we get the commentary from the commission.
You do. So either way, with or without a person there, you'll still get the same information back from the Conservation Commission.
And for the board's information, as far as what's going on here, when I first started serving on that liaison was fairly important, only because we had no staff. Now the department has the staff it needs. They have a person that is dedicated solely to the Conservation Commission, and that staff person does a very good job with his reports
so
to
there's
to
somebody-
the
So we staff that. We make sure that commission meeting is staffed.
By who?
We have a
Gray.
conservation technician, Gray, and he is at every single meeting. And he does staff reports and he relays
I
everything.
think that relieves us of the pressure of not having somebody there until somebody wants to step forward.
I agree.
And that's
I agree.
absolutely fine as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, because, if something came up, I think Greg could do what you do, which is make a staff recommendation
Well,
that's included
everything
in
that
our
goes
packages.
to Conservation Commission for a conditional use permit is a planning board application, and we review all those before they go to conservation anyways. So,
Okay. Well, I'm baying to literally require somebody to go there because, first of all, I think 2 meetings a month is
Too many.
too
One
much.
too many.
And certainly if somebody wants to attend the meetings, if they see something coming up, we could do that. So we'll leave it open for now, and if somebody says, you know, I really would like to go to that, please just let us know, and we'll do that.
And just for further information, as far as this has to go back to the city council, at this time, the planning board representative to the Conservation Commission is the 5th voting member. So they have to seat an alternate to have 5 voting members. If they, I don't even, you know,
Do you
so.
guys ever have tie votes there, potential tie votes?
Not, there
They
is some.
very
com-
rarely vote on anything
Yeah,
now.
yeah.
So, all right.
The
So
only thing they
this-
vote
all right.
on if they're gonna expend money.
We'll
out
let
of
the council
conservation.
work it out, Gail, and.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. This is more of on the city council has to decide what they want to do and who they want to
I
put
think
on
they'll
it.
be all right at the moment.
Okay, wonderful. We're moving right along. I see we're back to my favorite, the Historical District Commission, and I am sure that Rob has news that we're gonna get together sooner than later on that to.
Send me a date and I'll put it in my calendar.
Okay, that works great because we wanna
So
get to
on,
that.
on that same subject, Heritage Commission would like me to come in and speak with them on the 12th of this month as well, concerning that same topic. So
Okay.
maybe if you wanna set, we can,
Again, I can't overstate the importance of this because we've got downtown, we've got Lakeport, and we have the Weirs. And there are just people drooling to get in there and do something that we as a city may or not benefit from
I
in
would
the
say
long
in
run.
theory, we've also got the state school property, even though traditionally we haven't owned it. There are some historic buildings up there.
Yeah, well.
that just wouldn't fall under the historic
Yeah,
district.
that would.
Commission.
Yeah, I understand that,
District.
but
That would
yeah.
be more of a heritage thing. But, okay. any-
On
go ahead.
that same, while we're already talking about it, I will say there was a demolition permit for the old St. Joseph's Church. That has been withdrawn, just so it's out there.
Is that
Well,
the
you
one
get
that's like right now?
Throw that in your commentary. That'll get people wound up.
So,
Oh, good.
So it's
but just so the board is aware,
I
it
didn't
has
hear what
been
he said,
completely
Tyler.
withdrawn.
What'd he say?
It's already in the paper.
Oh, of course it is. All right.
So it's not, I guess, the newest of news,
Okay.
but just so you know.
Any other business then besides that? We are on the last item on the agenda.
Old business.
Oh, we do have other business here. Not old business, other
Yeah,
business.
that's me.
I'm sorry?
I have old business times 2.
Oh, I don't see, okay, you have something you want to bring up, Mike?
The apartments on Providence Street, there was a lot of scruff from the neighbors, the church across the street when that was going in, talking about it. We approved them for more units than what the land could hold. And I promised the neighbors that I would have them put a curve in the driveway, so when you drive by, you look up there, you see a curve with some trees, you don't see the apartment buildings. Phil Bulliard, I should have made him stay. He said, oh, there's such a rise on that driveway that you won't be able to see the apartment buildings. We don't want to put the curve in the driveway. All right, I believe you, but I got burned. I promised the people and I can't deliver and I feel bad. The money that we gave them a sidewalk waiver on, why don't we get arborvitae's and put up close right to the driveway? Because there's 100 yards, at least 300 feet when you look up there. You know, you have the driveway and there's a lot of space on either side. Put a double row of arborvitae's in that field on either side, right up to the driveway, so it's not as prominent.
So legally, we cannot take money that is for sidewalks, put it in escrow, and use it for something other than what its intended use is.
Can we ask the contractor to add it at this point? As a goodwill gesture?
We
to
could reach out to the
neighbors?
developer and ask if they would be so inclined to do some plantings.
And maybe remind them that
What happened to that sidewalk money?
It goes into an escrow account.
But that notwithstanding, correct me if I'm wrong, Mike, they said what has happened wouldn't happen, right? You wouldn't be able to see it, that's why you didn't need that.
Correct.
So if I could add in, so I believe that was the full intent when they originally came in. And then there was an issue as the parcel that they wanted to connect to Growth Road through was a city-owned parcel, and that that parcel was actually purchased with federal dollars
Mhm.
through a conservation
So
fund.
they couldn't use it, I
So
understand
then,
that.
we were not able to put a road through that because that violated the agreement that we had. So then they had to come back before planning board to amend the driveway to what it is now to make sure that we met the emergency egress requirements. And that's why that road is like that.
That's my understanding, Mr. Chair, and I was the vice chair of the zoning board when that passed. So I do remember, what they were talking about, and, yeah, it was
It's not that
originally
people didn't
designed to
wanna
go out on Grove
be a
Road, but
promise
that
or
couldn't
not
happen.
do something. There was other issues that came up that required that. It's just like their water line issue. We had to jump through hoops with the state and the federal government just to allow them to put a water line through that city parcel. It took us, 6 months to go through, it was the Department of Interior and
Natural and Cultural Resources.
and Natural and Cultural Resources, just to put a water line
Okay,
in.
well, just reach out to them and see if you
But
can get them.
we can reach out and ask if
Yes.
they'll do some additional plantings for us.
All right.
But I think that was what happened there.
Well, let's just try that.
I just, every time I drive by, I feel bad because I promised and I didn't deliver.
Well,
That's the first one.
Not your fault. You
We
another
go
one?
to the second one, yeah, there's another one. I drove through the Weirs today, nice new poles, no wires. You drive up by the, used to be the little 5 and dime store there, bunch of wires. Then I'm talking about overhead wires from the telephone poles. Go a little bit farther and the wires diminish. Why do they diminish? It's because the new apartments, the big townhouses on the right and the nice buildings on the left, what's that development called?
Oh,
Aqua Vista?
Yeah.
Not Aqua Vista, the apartments is, Aqua Vista's the marina, isn't it?
Oh, but you're talking about are you still talking about as you go down Lakeside Ave?
Yes, you climb the hill, the nice brand new condos are there on the right, and then across the street you have the nice brand new condos.
That's Scenic
Oh,
Road.
you're over.
That's Scenic Road, yeah.
You're over Scenic Drive, you're at the top of the hill.
Scenic Road.
Yep.
Scenic Road.
So anyhow, there's no wires going to those nice apartments. There's no wires going to those buildings because maybe they were required to do it, or maybe they wanted to do it to make their buildings look better. Last month, somebody asked to have 4 brand new, or is it 6 brand new apartment buildings, lots of groundwork done, and we said, okay, you don't have to have wires.
Because there's already wires there.
But we have a chance to get rid of the wires. And we should seize on it. Vote was 3-1. It was a snowy day, so there were only 4 members and Charlie here that night. So I'm asking one of the board members that voted to grant the waiver to review it and let's talk about it some more. Somebody that voted against it.
There wasn't a waiver given for the wires, it just wasn't required.
They did request a waiver, and the waiver was approved.
On the wires?
Yes.
For overhead utilities, yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I think, Mr. Chair, if I recall, that had to do with kind of a little bit of a COVID hangover with the availability through Eversource of the equipment needed to actually bury wires. And that led to us granting a couple of waivers and/or not insisting that wires get buried. I don't know if that particular, it was a
For that one, it actually met the criteria in our site plan regulations of infill and redevelopment, and that's where they requested the waiver from, was the infill and redevelopment, because there was already overhead utility lines there to the existing structure, and they're just looking to maintain that, which is why they based their request for the waiver off of that. The project that you're referring to there was nothing there before. So there was no ability for them to request a waiver for the overhead utilities because there was no development there.
Could be.
Right.
You're talking about the other developments that run along Scenic Road. So all those, you were correct, they have underground utilities because there was no development there before. It was
Right,
all.
but
it
still,
was-
there's
it
a
was-
house there now, they're gonna tear it down and put up 6 apartments. And we said, okay, you don't need overhead wires. You
And that
don't
was,
need to
the
bury
additional
wires.
aspect of that is we didn't want them digging into the road in that section.
Half of every new development is gonna be across the street from the wires, if you look at it that way. You can't use the excuse, oh, they're gonna have to dig the road up to put the wires under the ground. Half of all the buildings that go up are gonna be across the street from the wires. So you can't use the excuse, we're gonna have to cut the road up to not have underground utilities.
I'm not the board, I don't vote on them, I just
I
relay the
understand, that's why
information.
I'm pleading with the other 3 board members that voted to say they don't have to put underground wires in, to say, let's just review it again and we'll
Is that
talk
permissible?
about it. Yes.
I don't know if it's
We
actually
have 30
allowed
days to
because
appeal that.
The subdivision was already approved.
We have
So now
30
you would
days
have
to
to
appeal
revoke
that
their
waiver.
approval, and then you'd have to then have, so you'd have to, so I don't know if you could, I don't know if you legally could do that at this point, because now you've got to revoke a subdivision approval.
You would have to find
then-
cause to revoke it.
Yeah, you'd have to find cause to do that.
Because it was
But you've al-
illegally
And then you'd have
voted
to go
against.
back
But
and
the
have
board
somebody deny
already
the
approved
waiver.
the waiver. So if you went into a courtroom and said, oh, well, we want to reconsider now, well, the board already voted to approve the waiver. So you can't now go back and say, well, we didn't
Yeah,
mean
we
to do
can.
that.
We have 30 days to go back and say, let's look at it again.
Has it been 30 days though? Wasn't it last month?
Right, it's less than 30 days.
Have to look at.
So first you need a motion then to revoke their subdivision approval.
I don't think so. It happened with
So
Canton in the trees,
you
if
can't
you
approve,
recall, a
so
couple
then,
years ago.
so you would need to revoke it, because then, now you're saying that you want to deny the waiver to make it an incomplete application.
What,
You
was-
just said within 30 days.
a couple years ago with Canton with the trees. Do you remember that?
We didn't revoke, no, that was not, we didn't revoke anything, and we didn't, all we did was, we required them to do landscaping. And they requested a waiver from the street tree requirement.
Same thing as the waiver from the.
Yeah, but
very
now
end
you're
line.
asking us to revoke an approval to then deny a waiver without noticing anybody.
A couple years ago with Canton and the trees, we said, there was a vote, it was like 7-2, to say you don't have to put street trees in. And we looked at it again, and I lost again, but that's all right.
So,
You know,
Did-
but
do
the
you know
whole
if anybody
idea
voted
is.
against that subdivision
For which one? I'm sorry.
for the one that on Scenic Road there? Savannah, do you know what application number that was?
I can pull it up.
Last month, they used the excuse of, well, we're not gonna make you put underground wires in because you have to dig the road up. But every single construction job has a 50-50 chance of having the wires across the street. So you can't use that as an excuse.
So in defense of why I chose to vote the way I did, is because it was already existing. He already had a street pole or an existing
I understand.
line, and so it wasn't a requirement that I have to do these things or that he has to do that.
It is a requirement. The city says when you do new construction, you have to have underground.
But there was an existing structure already there.
You're tearing it down and putting something new in. That's like,
But there's still an existing structure, which is why I chose what I did.
I understand your reasoning, but we have a chance to look at it again. And I urge one of you to say, let's look at it again.
So, actually, Tyler just looked up state law for it. You can't appeal that. It would have to be an aggrieved party per state law that would have to appeal that decision.
Who would the aggrieved party be?
It would have to be a legal abutter.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, that 30-day rule is what was put in there for an aggrieved party, not because we changed our mind. That's what the 30 days on the zoning
Right,
application is.
and that's RSA 677-15.
Well, I think Mike has, a valid point about, at least in the future, maybe try to mitigate that.
So
more.
I
I'm just
think
saying.
part of that is what we just tried to solve earlier when I was talking about
The
waiver
waivers.
processes. So I think we've kind of fixed this. You can't really go back in time and try to
Doesn't sound like we can anyway.
And change other applications that have already been approved.
It doesn't sound like we can anyway.
I
According to
don't think
state
that,
law.
I don't think that legally we can do that.
Okay. All right. I don't know if we had anybody who would reconsider the vote anyway, but nonetheless, their vote, I should say. We have, I get it. One other thing we have is we don't have a vice chair right now.
I thought Mike was.
I think Mike's the secretary, right?
Yes.
So we need a vice chair. I won't be here next month due to work, and I won't be here hopefully in August due to work. So I've been pretty consistent not being here those meetings, although I did attend a few on Zoom, but that seems to not be permissible anymore, or probable. So, would anybody like to nominate somebody, or would somebody like to say, I would be happy to be the vice chair? I asked about Mike being the vice chair, but he's secretary, but he could always retire from that and apply for the vice chair too.
Mr. Chair, if you
Oh,
would
no.
accept,
Volunteer.
I would
I would
like to
volunteer
nominate
Counselor
Rich
Cheney.
McNeil to be vice chair of the
Oh, I
planning
would
board.
second that all day long.
If he's willing.
Usually they do this.
I would
Yeah,
volunteer
I know.
Counselor Cheney.
You would do that, wouldn't you? We go nuts. You know that.
Yeah. I'd
But I
like to
will
see,
tell him you
Yeah.
made that offer.
we should pull that out of next meeting though, just to watch, just
His
to see his
reaction.
face.
Would you be willing to do it, Rich? I mean,
Yes, I guess I will.
okay,
I'll accept.
thank you.
Thank you. You know what Navy stands for? Never again volunteer yourself.
Well, you've been on the board long enough and dodged
Right,
any
do we need to vote on that?
responsibilities, so.
Okay, any other nominations?
Go with Rich.
I made mine.
We'll close the nominations, or did you want to nominate Counselor Cheney, or are you just talking about that?
Why don't we put him on the Conservation Commission?
Oh, yeah, that.
Yeah, that would be even better.
No.
That would go well.
I'm sure he would.
All right,
yeah.
so we'll close the nominations at this time. Anything else you want to add? Other
Do I
than
get a
what-
pay raise?
Oh,
Yes.
absolutely.
Double.
Okay, all in favor, please raise your hand. I'll vote for this one, okay. It's unanimous. It's the first vote I've taken since I've been sitting here. So, all right, we'll exchange phone numbers, okay?
Okay.
So, that works well. All right, thank you.
Yeah, and Mr. Chair, I won't be here next month either, so, I guess mindful of quorum. Hopefully everybody else can make
Yeah,
it.
and I think we've had at least one application that I'm aware of to be on the board, which should be going before you guys. That's a former member, Sarah Jenna, told me she
Oh,
wanted
yeah?
to reapply.
She did apply. I almost think that she has withdrawn her application.
Well, it would be an alternate at this point, right?
It would be, it's an alternate position.
So I'll
yes.
talk to her about that. Hopefully
But
she hasn't. because-
Perhaps you can,
Well, I think she wasn't sure if she was gonna remain in the area.
yeah.
And
I
the
think that
last
was
time I
the-
saw her about that, she still was playing with that idea, so hopefully she's gonna stay, because I thought she was a good,
Yeah,
We've had some great board members.
yeah,
So,
and she was a good one, so hopefully she'll,
yeah, she,
maybe just a little bit of coaxing, Charlie.
all right, we are at 8:32, so,
I'll
as we
motion
like
to
to keep
adjourn.
these, meetings as short as possible,
Motion to adjourn?
is there a second to that? All in favor? Unanimous, thank you. And Counselor Susie, thank you for stepping into the breach tonight.
It's been your pleasure.
Yeah, it has been my pleasure. Thank you.
And,
How come you don't want to sell water to those?
Free beers at Defiant.